Welcome everyone to the City Council meeting of Thursday, May 15, 2025. It is 5:30. The Opens Meeting Act is posted on the east wall of the council chambers, and a notice of this meeting was published in the York News Times on May 8, 2025. If you would, please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amanda, the roll call.
Van Esch.
Here.
Piper.
Here.
McGregor.
Here.
Northrop. North.
Here.
Shepherd. Here. Postier.
Here.
Wilkinson.
You were all sent the minutes of the May 1st, 2025 meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes?
Move for approval. Second.
Motion and a second. Amanda.
Van Esch.
Yes.
Piper.
Yes.
McGregor.
Yes.
North.
Yes.
Shepherd. Yes. Postier.
Yes.
Next are claims of elected officials.
Yes, we have 3 claims of elected officials. We've got a claim for Tony North printing an office supply in the amount of $667.08. Move for approval. Second.
Motion and a second. Amanda.
Van Esch.
Yes.
Piper.
Yes.
McGregor.
Yes.
North.
Abstain.
Shepherd. Yes. Postier.
Yes. We have one for Jeff Piper of Piper's Inc. in the amount of $622.59. I move for approval. Second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Amanda.
Van Esch.
Yes.
Piper.
Abstain.
McGregor.
Yes.
North.
Yes.
Shepherd. Yes. Postier.
Yes. We have a third one for Jeff McGregor, the board affiliation with the American Legion in the amount of $2,000. Move for approval. Second.
Motion and a second. Amanda.
Van Esch.
Yes.
Piper.
Yes.
McGregor.
Abstain.
North.
Yes.
Shepherd. Yes. Postier.
Yes.
Our next agenda item are the claims for the period of May 2nd through May 15th, 2025.
Yes, the finance committee did meet and move for approval of the claims for the period May 2nd through May 15th, 2025. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further questions of the finance committee? Hearing none. Amanda.
Van Esch.
Yes.
Piper.
Yes.
McGregor.
Yes.
North.
Yes.
Shepherd. Yes. Postier.
Yes.
You were all sent the department activity reports for the month of April 2025. Are there any questions, staff, on those?
Move for approval. Second.
Motion and a second. Amanda.
Van Esch.
Yes.
Piper.
Yes.
McGregor.
Yes.
North.
Yes.
Shepherd. Yes. Postier.
Yes.
And we have the cash balances for the month of April 2025 to approve.
Move for approval.
Second.
Amanda.
Van Esch.
Yes.
Piper.
Yes.
McGregor.
Yes.
North.
Yes.
Shepherd. Yes. Postier.
Yes.
Our next agenda item is city administrator report. Dr. Crawford.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. In May, we are launching the comprehensive plan update. So staff and our consultants, RG, have already been at work for the past month or so and putting together a process to update our comprehensive plan. If you remember, that was approved in 2017. A lot has happened since 2017. And so this is a process to go through to talk about key land use issues, future plans for the city. And so we will use the 2017 as our base and then be moving forward in terms of what did we accomplish, what do we still want to accomplish, what have we changed our mind about, and what are new things that we want to do. So we have a website for the comp plan as one way that the public can get involved. And one tool on the website is an interactive map. And so the link to the comp plan website is on the front page of our website. So the front page has stories that run. One of those is about this and has a link to this comp plan website. And here you can use the interactive map to find a place on the map and you can post a note, something you'd like to see in this part of town. Or you can take a picture of something and post it with a note. So it's an interactive tool for people to be involved in making suggestions about what they'd like to see in the city of York. So that is one step that's open right now. So we'll also be using this website to put a few survey questions on over the process of the comp plan. And we'll have some listening sessions with different cross sections of the community during the comp plan process. So we'll be working hard to get the word out to people about different ways that you can be involved. But this step is open now for business. So if you're interested, you can get involved in making comments on this map now. The other thing that's on the website are copies of reports of many things that we have been doing since the last comp plan. For example, you are all involved in the tower crossing plan. So that's important work that the public has already had input on and we've already talked about. So the tower crossing plan is linked here. The downtown revitalization plan is linked here. So I asked them to link several of the other things that we have talked about together on the website as well. So those are there for resources, so we don't forget other conversations we've had since 2017. And then tonight on the agenda, you are approving a steering committee, which is another part of involving a cross section of the community in this conversation. The next public meetings on this will be May 29th. The steering committee meets at 3:30 with the consultants, and then you and the planning commission together meet with the consultants at 5:30 on May 29th. Thank you.
Any questions, Dr. Crawford? We're off and rolling, so very good. Thank you, Dr. Crawford. Our next agenda item is consider approval of a special designated license for the Knights of Columbus Council 1708 for the beer garden at the York County Fair, 2325 North Nebraska Avenue. Dates are July 31st, August 1st, and August 2nd, 2025. Matt, if you would, state your name and address for the record and,
Matt Leaf, 1801 Paradise Palm View here in New York, representing the Knights of Columbus, asking for liquor license again for this year for the York County Fair. It'll be 3 nights, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I think the beer garden usually opens around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, but we do put on the license from 12 p.m. to 1 a.m. just for the standard for the day, just in case Fair Board wants us to open a little bit earlier and stuff, but can we do that? County Fair again, asking for approval for the application.
for your summer job.
Keeps me out of sturgeons.
Well, I think you guys have done a great job with that for many, many years now, so
It's been right at 25 maybe now.
it's been a long time, so
Since the late 90s.
great, thank you.
Yes.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further comment? Amanda?
Van Esch.
Yes.
Piper.
Yes.
McGregor.
Yes.
North.
Yes.
Shepherd. Yes. Ostier.
Yes. I think we got it. Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Our next agenda item is consider approval of a bid from Omaha Stage Equipment for the replacement of auditorium stage curtains in the amount of $53,486. Dr. Crawford?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. This is a part of our Creative District grant. So we received a grant for $95,000 for different improvements in the community. And one of the pieces of that grant request was to replace our stage curtains. So we did put this out for public bid. Omaha Stage Equipment was the only bid that we received, but they came out and spent a lot of time talking to Cherie and talking to some people who do dance recitals about what it needs to look like to work for dance recitals as well. And so there's also Omaha Stage Equipment is a company that has come out to do work on our curtains in the past. So there's somebody we are familiar with, and they submitted our winning bid.
Very good. Any questions, council? So this is part of the grant that that we received, but we still need to approve the spending of that grant. So
Second.
thank you. Any further comments? Amanda?
Van Esch.
Yes.
Piper.
Yes.
McGregor.
Yes.
North.
Yes.
Shepherd. Yes. Ostier.
Yes.
Next, we have Madonna coming to the microphone. We're going to just talk about the downtown redevelopment funds again. So there you go. Go right ahead.
Okay, Donna, Chamber of Commerce, 603 North Lincoln Avenue. I'm just gonna touch upon the 7 projects that you have in front of you. There are 3 others We were hoping they would have made it out of Lincoln, in time to come today, so hopefully I'll be back in 2 weeks with those last 3 projects. It's definitely been a labor of love. We had, as you recall, we were awarded $400,000 from Department of Economic Development. We received requests over $563,000. So our DTR committee had a little bit of work to do, to pare those requests down to still be able to serve as many properties as we possibly could. Just to kind of hit the highlights, you'll notice the Henderson State Bank building is probably one of our more beautiful buildings in our downtown area, historic buildings. That one will be getting some funds to be able to make sure that that remains a beautiful part of our downtown building. The Opera House, they have been part of 2 other rounds. It is such a large building that they've had to break that project up over several, and this should help get it to the finish line. The old McNeil Floral Building, which is now the Kurtz's Boutique, just going through some nice fresh refreshes, and then fixing some of the things to keep it that beautiful, pointing, all of that. Some other properties, just kind of bringing it up into the new ages, making it not look not quite so lovely. The Max Golden Grounds, that building's you're gonna really like it. Really looking nice, and we're hoping to really get this baby going, because with that 100-degree temperature swing, his windows said, and started cracking and moving down, so the poor guys couldn't take all over it until we get this moving through. The H&R Block building, going through just kind of the same things, and real good refresh. As you're coming north, that's definitely something you see right there on the north side of town when you're going northbound, so that'll be a nice refresh. And then the economic development and chamber buildings will get a little bit of a fresh up from our landlords as well. Have asked all the property owners to come. It is graduation weekend, not only in New York. So a lot of our property owners, but we do have a few here with representing Dozy Management and the First National Company. If you had any additional questions for them, otherwise I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
We were talking, when we were first here, just kind of an overview of the big project of how many dollars this 4th round was.
So this 4th round is $400,000 granted to the city. So actually, once all these projects finish, we will have over $2.2 million invested into our downtown. That process started in 2016 over that time frame, and about $750,000 of it is owner investment dollars, and the rest were granted dollars. So it's really wonderful, and it has spurred on private investment as well. There are several buildings that are going through some facade rehab that are doing it of their own accord and have not sought any grant assistance. So it was designed to do that, and it is indeed doing that.
Well, it's been a great catalyst to downtown over the last 10 years. It's made a huge difference.
Huge difference.
Huge difference to the whole feel, and so
Mhm.
thank you for all of your work on this. Is there any questions for Madonna about any of these projects? We're gonna take each one. We need to approve each one of them separately, so. Any questions? Madonna, thank you for all of your work on this. We'll start with the first one is consider the downtown redevelopment facade program to JZA Properties, Nebraska Door and Window LLC, 927 North Grand Avenue for exterior repair, replacement awnings, windows grant, and a grant amount of $25,927.50 with a total project of $34,570.
Move for approval. Second.
Motion and a second. Amanda.
Van Esch.
Yes.
Piper.
Yes.
McGregor.
Yes.
North.
Yes.
Shepherd. Yes. Ostier.
Yes.
I'll just kind of jump a little bit here. Consider approval of the Rude Capital Properties Matt Golden Grounds at 600 North Grant Avenue for exterior repair, replacement signage, awnings, windows, and doors. Grant amount $54,612. Total project cost $104,333.
Move for approval. Second.
Motion and a second. Amanda?
Van Esch.
Yes.
Piper.
Yes.
McGregor.
Yes.
North.
Yes.
Shepherd. Yes. Ostier.
Yes.
And then approval of a facade improvement program to Dose Management. the Opera House building at 623 North Grants Avenue for exterior repair, replacement signage, awnings, windows, doors, and a grant amount of $37,164.75 with a total project cost of $49,553.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second, Amanda.
Van Esch.
Yes.
Piper.
Yes.
McGregor.
Yes.
North.
Yes.
Shepherd. Yes. Postier.
Yes.
Next approval of a facade, improvement program to Henderson State Bank, 627 North Lincoln Avenue for exterior repair, replacement signage, awnings, windows, doors, and grant in the amount of $56,212.88. Total project cost $82,798.
Second.
Motion is second, Amanda.
Van Esch.
Yes.
Piper.
Yes.
McGregor.
Yes.
North.
Yes.
Shepherd. Yes. Postier.
Abstain.
Consider approval of facade improvement program to First National Company, the YCDC Chamber Building at 603 North Lincoln Avenue for exterior repair, replacement signage, awnings, windows, and doors. Grant amount of $6,450, total project cost of $8,600.
Move for approval. Second.
Motion is second, Amanda.
Van Esch.
Yes.
Piper.
Yes.
McGregor.
Yes.
North.
Yes.
Shepherd. Yes. Postier.
Yes.
And then consider approval of facade improvement program to Crawford Properties, Curtsies, 723 North Lincoln Avenue for exterior repair, replacement signage, awnings, windows, and doors. Grant amount $52,468.09 with a total project cost of $90,459.34.
Move for approval. Second.
Motion and a second, Amanda.
Van Esch.
Yes.
Piper.
Yes.
McGregor.
Yes.
North.
Yes.
Shepherd. Yes. Postier.
Yes.
And the seventh one tonight, consider approval of facade improvement program to Click Properties, H&R Block, 614 North Grant for exterior repair, replacement signage, awnings, windows, and doors. Grant amount $51,639.29. Total project cost $106,243.63.
Move for approval. Second.
I have a motion and a second, Amanda.
Van Esch.
Yes.
Piper.
Yes.
McGregor.
Yes.
North.
Yes.
Shepherd. Yes. Postier.
Yes.
Very good. And to you owners that are here, thank you for coming, and we look forward to seeing the improvements. So thank you, Madonna. Next we have a public hearing and on a preliminary and final plat. Consider approval of a preliminary and final plat on Skip Second Subdivision, City of York, York County, Nebraska. Dan, if you please would come to the microphone and tell us about this, we would appreciate that.
Okay, so this is the property where the car clinic is at, next to the Hope Mission there. So 3 different owners now, and the land belonged to the south and it belonged to the north, and they're finally have settled on 3 tracts of land, which you should see on your map. So the car clinic will own the south piece, Gary Ozentowski will own the north piece, and Skip will own the piece in the middle that's got a storage building. So they finally come upon that agreement. They've also put in some easements, because one piece would be landlocked. So they put in some easements so everybody can access the driveway over on Grant Avenue. So car clinic, Skip, Gary, they can all use that driveway. It's owned by Gary, but they've got the easements in the plat. The planning commission's looked it over, they have recommended approval. Be happy to answer any questions.
Well, that's always been it's always had a lot of stuff going on in that area, so that's probably good to get that straightened out once and
Yes.
for all.
Yeah, the 3 of them finally agreed upon the 3 tracks and the easement.
Good, good. Any questions of Dan? Hearing none, I'd look for this is a public hearing, I'm sorry. Thank you. This is a public hearing. If anyone would like to speak to the matter, they can come to the microphone at this time. Seeing no one rush to the microphone, I'm going to close the public hearing on this item, and I'll turn it over to the council for your action.
Second.
Motion approval of the preliminary and final plat of Skip Second Subdivision. Are there any other questions? Amanda?
Van Esch.
Yes.
Piper.
Yes.
McGregor.
Yes.
North.
Yes.
Shepherd. Yes. Postier.
Yes.
Next is mayor appointments. I would like to, you have the list of people that I would like to appoint as the comprehensive planning steering committee. In front of you, I feel that, it gives a broad representation across not only, just the whole city. I think it's a great group and I really appreciate all these people being willing to give up their time and be part of this process. There will also be other public meetings, so just because someone's on this list does not mean that they cannot have public comments in this, and there will be lots of public of that, but the steering committee serves a very important purpose for us, so I would like to approve this entire group.
Move for approval.
I have a motion and a second. Amanda?
Banish.
Yes.
Piper.
Yes.
McGregor.
Yes.
North.
Yes.
Shepherd. Yes. Postier.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Our next agenda item is an LB 840 public discussion.
So I requested the LB 840 discussion to be added onto the agenda. I passed out an updated, slightly updated version of the LB 840 plan we discussed around this council a little over a year ago. At that time, it was recommended to go into the ordinance committee, and they've had a chance to review that over the last year. There was a request that early on in that time that White City EC, as the plan administrator of the board, would agree to take on the that had been done back then, and so there's there was discussion on this. So this was just what we had sent there. I had since had taken that plan and updated it for a date. As we had discussion at the council, I wanted a chance to discuss publicly a little bit. So the date I just put on there is January 1st. It could be moved to a different start date, a budget year, things like that, but for the council and the public edification, what we would be approving as a council, if we were to approve a plan and recommendation, would be to put it to the vote of the people, whether or not we implement an LB 840 plan. And talking with Charlie, it would also entail a second vote to dedicate a portion of the sales tax as it's currently proposed to do that. So it wouldn't be increasing any tax. Almost every community that I know of has added a tax to fund their LB 840 plan with. But since we are maxed at our sales tax, it would be allocating a portion of that, as well as and then utilizing the additional tax revenue we're receiving currently, well over 7 figures in additional taxes we've been receiving through leasehold revenues and some of these additional property projects we've been working on to grow the city. So it'd be a time where I think we could fund a plan like this without any additional tax revenue needed. So utilizing the excess reserves that we're generating at the city already. So I think we're in a great position as a community to be looking at this for all the things that LB 357 has done that's been great for our community. I think LB 840 also has that exact same opportunity. So I wanted to discuss that. The dollar amount obviously is up for discussion. I've got in there. I kind of worked the numbers backwards. Just when I've been doing these rough drafts, about $1 million funding it with, which at the current proposed sales tax rate comes up to about 20% of our the 1.5%, not the whole 2%, but 20% of the 1.5% based on the current budget year, which is almost exactly offset by the amount of additional leasehold revenues we've been pulling in as a city recently, with the additional projects in the community over the last year or two. So today I also brought in a couple of subject matter experts that we have on Zoom here, as well as some in the audience. Nate Schneider is the city manager in McCook, who has been very successful with their LB 840 plan, as well as Megan, a city council member in Seward, who is involved with their LB 840 plan. So I thought it'd be good as a chance for the council and those here to hear from them. If you guys have questions, either as someone from a staff member to talk on the plan and what they're doing, as well as an elected official involved in it, what they're doing in their communities. I think please, Megan, I know presentation, Jonathan Jenks from Seward was unable to join us today, but he did some of regard to mention there the presentation they have on some of the projects they've been able to do in Seward. And I know Nate, I believe you presented at the city council training in December on that, and so he I don't know where to look, but he so he's talked a lot about what McCook does too. So I guess absent any other direction, I don't know, Nate, if you want to jump in and talk about McCook and some of the stuff you're utilizing the program for.
Sure, yeah, I'd be happy to. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, yeah. Well, yes, thanks. And I apologize. I'm looking a little worse for wear. My daughter had a tennis meet tonight, and so just got done prior to 5:30. So I'm a little windblown and haggard. So I apologize for my appearance, but my wife is used to it, so I guess that's all that probably matters. So anyway, we in McCook, I don't know if you want like the background how we started our local option sales tax LB 840 combined program. It started in 2000. There was a vote that was taken. Local option sales tax of 1% was implemented. It sunsetted after 10 years. At the expiration of that sunset period, that's when determination was made by the city council at that point in time to ask the voters of McCook if they wanted to go ahead and increase their local option sales tax an additional 0.5%. And of that 0.5% was going to be dedicated to, or 50% was going to be dedicated to LB 840 purposes. The other 50% was to be dedicated to projects around the community. That passed with a sunset clause of another 10 years. The EDC here in McCook Economic Development Corporation, they were assigned the program manager spot. So our EDC actually is the one that manages our LB 840 fund, subject to the requirements of the state statute. We have a community economic advisory committee that actually makes sure that the actions of the EDC board, again, who controls the LB 840 decision making, that information is getting passed along to the council, the city council. There is a requirement that any LB 840 activity that deals with real estate, that actually has to be confirmed by the city council. So there's got to be an affirmative vote by the city council to move forward with the use of LB 840 for any land use purposes. And so as part of the LB 840 program, we developed a plan that would have been in conjunction with that 2008 ballot election. And it basically sets out the terms and details. It sounds like you guys have a proposed plan or a draft of a plan. I think that probably all the communities have similar language because it's all, being taken out of the state statutes. For us, when we started the LB 840 program, it sounds like we're doing a lot of the same things that you guys are doing. I heard you guys talking about your facade program. That was one of the items that our EDC really kind of focused on originally. And the EDC also has the authority to go ahead and make loans. They have granting authority. Typically, the LB 840 money is used as stopgap financing for different projects. They really take a close look at trying to make sure that there is succession planning that's considered as part of their LB 840 program tasks for businesses that might potentially, be either closing due to retirement or whatever the case may be. They also do use it for business attraction as well, too, trying to bring other businesses into the community. In 2018, we revised the plan to include early childhood education. We might have been one of the first communities to have done so. And so we use LB 840 to offset certain expenses, incentivize certain things that might make it fairly difficult for daycare providers to make a go of it. One thing that I know that was included was an additional incentive for daycare providers that would watch infant children as opposed to just toddlers. The numbering requirements a little bit different just depending on the age of the kids that they're watching. And so we had to figure out some way to make sure that there wasn't a penalty that was associated with watching newborns. And so that's one of the major incentives that we try to make sure that we include as part of our LB 840 program. We've also used it for housing purposes here recently. the EDC has kind of taken a different course, or I guess a different priority as far as its main priority over the course of the past 5 to 6 years. I know as York probably has experienced in every other community in Nebraska, there are definitely issues with trying to make sure that enough housing is developed to accommodate all the residents of our communities. And so low to moderate income housing assistance was also included as part of the LB 840 plan. Those are the only two real changes that we've made in the plan since 2008. We did add an additional 0.5% sales tax. I think you guys are up to 2% as well too. I talked to City Administrator Crawford about that. It sounds like you're at 2%. Maybe there was a recreational component to your local option sales tax. We just did the same thing in 2022. So, like I told, Sue, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. What's the best way? Just depends on where you're at. One of the things that we were probably somewhat fortunate with was we had not dedicated all of our local option sales tax to general fund purposes. We were able to go ahead and ask the voters if we could take that 0.5% of the additional 0.5% that was approved in 2008 to put towards our LB 840 program. And it's worked. We've got a good LB 840 program team over at the EDC. They're very responsive. They understand what the community's needs are. We work hand in hand with them. It's nice not having to be the economic development director. I can just focus on the city. I really do kind of appreciate that. But that's kind of our program in a nutshell. We've done a lot of different projects with our LB 840 funding. Like I said, there are 1,000 different ways to skin a cat. What's best for each community just kind of depends on what their needs are. And if you guys have any questions, be happy to take them. If you guys want to send me, whatever you guys want, I'd be happy to talk to you about it. I know that Charlie McPherson, he's our EDC director. He could probably fill you in with even more detail than myself.
Thank you, Nate.
Yep.
Yeah. Questions?
What are some of the projects that you funded?
Let's see. I had to bring a list with me because we've done, so originally in 2000, some of the things that we were really kind of looking at doing were just improvement projects, bathhouse at the swimming pool, improvements over at the sports complex, in particular replacing the backstops and lighting at our JC complex. There was an expansion of the senior center that occurred at that time as a result of the LB 840 approval. There was an elevator that was added to the library. We used some of the funding to pay for phases to our B Street project. B Street in McCook is Highway 6 and 34. It's our main east-west street. Then we also used some funding for Highway 83 improvement. And then as far as more recent projects that we've done, we've used it to rehabilitate the Keystone Hotel. That was actually being used as a nursing home. And then it was closed down, I want to say probably in the early 2000s. So it sat vacant for a little while. It was really kind of a problem for us. It was right in the middle of our central business district. So we used LB 840 to help with the rehab efforts. We've looked at utilizing it for facade improvements, like you guys have talked about. We use that for a number of different businesses downtown. We've used it for the demolition of blighted buildings in the past. And obviously a portion of it's going to go towards loans. We also make sure that a portion of that goes to the overhead costs over at the EDC to help pay for the staff over there. It's a staff of 2. It's not a large staff. But I think 1/3 of our LB 840 funding goes to pay the overhead at the EDC. And then when we approved or reapproved it back in 2016 or 2017, We used it for a number of different things. I guess the biggest thing that we did, and I guess I was city attorney when this occurred. We used a portion of it to assist us with some of the housing projects that we've had that we've been trying to push through McCook. It's gotten so complicated, I think, to try to figure out how to build additional houses and trying to do that in conjunction with our LB 840 program. It took us a little bit of time before we realized that's what we wanted to do. But once we committed to it, it's been a really nice source to be able to use. There's just a hodgepodge of things that we've used it for. I'd be happy to go ahead and send a list over to you. You can take a look at it. And again, I don't know if there's one way that's better than another. It's nice to have that. The flexibility is great. I know there are a couple of things that you could probably use LB 840 funds for that you may not be able to. But again, there may be other sources that the city of York or its partners, they're using to do the same thing. So, like I said, we just kind of, we decided when we did that additional half cent that it was important for us to go ahead and try to get an LB 840 program going. It was continued. I forgot to mention, we did go ahead and continue that in 2016. So the new sunset provision. So our voters, we had a committee that actually decided they wanted to put a 15-year sunset on the LB 840 ballot question that was passed in 2015, 2016, whatever year that was. So ours is going to sunset in the 2032, 2033 range. But it was kind of nice to be able to extend that out a little bit further. Being able to offer LB 840 as an incentive for a longer period of time. That was something that we wanted to try to achieve. It'd be great if we didn't have a sunset clause, but I also understand why the voters would prefer that. So, but there are some communities that don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Anything else for Nate? If not, Megan, you want to talk about Seward and your experience on the committee there?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me okay? Great. My name is Megan Kaler. I'm here representing the city of Seward, as well as the LB 840 committee for Seward. That was a lot of great information, Nate. Seward and McCook are very different communities, obviously. So it was really cool to hear everything that you have going on in your community. So thank you. I was glad to be a part of here and hear what you had to say about that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Hopefully you can see this presentation that I'm going to walk through. Forgive me, Jonathan was not able to join us today. But this is a presentation that was put together by him in coordination with our with the city administration when our LB 840 was up for ballot. So this is that presentation. It was in conjunction with the city and LB 840, and we are a little unique here in that the LB 840 decisions do not go to the city of city council. What the LB 840 committee votes on is what goes. The city council is made aware of those at each meeting when we've made any agreements to those, but our committee is the deciding factor there. So let me share my screen here. Oh, sharing is not turned on. Is it possible to get that?
Yep.
Great. I could talk for a little while, but it might be easier for you to see this. So great. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. And it's probably going to take up more of my screen here than I care to.
I think we can see the full thing.
Okay, for whatever reason, it is not moving forward here. There we go. Oh, it's in full presentation mode, so excuse me here. All right. So a little background on LB 840 for the city of Seward. We got started with this 20 years ago, and it has been renewed. You can see there in 2003 when this first got started, we had $75,000 and we expanded that in 2013 to 150. This presentation put together was for when this was going to be on the ballot in 2023. So we did not increase it in 2023. Some projects listed here, some that have been supported by the LB 840 committee. Petsource by Schooler for an expansion project in the Seward Rail campus. Many of you might remember the 2016 fire in downtown Seward that destroyed a longstanding historical building. We were able to help fund a group to come in and add 7 apartments and a couple of businesses in there. The Alps Bark Park is a indoor and outdoor dog park in downtown Seward. That's pretty cool for their relocation from outside Seward in the county and into downtown Seward and its expansion. And the Rivoli Theater, which is a longtime existing business in our community. They needed some renovations to their building as well as their business just in general. You can see there the movie, the screen expansion, a new projector that was desperately needed as well. Here we have the special election. This again, this is going to be helpful for you guys when if this is going to go to a ballot situation for you. Jonathan would be a great resource for you to help get the information that you need to help with any terms and anything like that as you potentially move forward with this decision in your community. And just some questions and answers that we typically get. So tax increment financing or TIF, yes, they are different. They are great programs for economic development. We utilize both in Seward. They provide low interest loans, forgivable loans, and grants. We can see it provides a little bit of creativity depending on what projects or expansions are coming our way. So we're able to really talk through those as a committee. And just in general, there's 80 LB 840 groups or communities across the state. As many of you know, economic development is very competitive in the state of Nebraska. And this is just some marketing pieces, as I said. Most of this has already been discussed, but it was very important for Jonathan to show you these in just an explanation of what LB 840 can do when you go potentially to try and get voters to understand the program. I've kind of gone through most of these, so I apologize for any doubles here, like I mentioned. Here we just show some graphs here noting where we were. This is back in 2012 is the top one, and 2013 is the bottom one. As I mentioned, McCook, you're very impressive. That's very awesome for your community, and like I said, I thank you for being able to hear that. That was great. But you can just see in 1 year in the change from one year to the next. And we were able to make some big strides and with economic development within that time frame. We did have a vote by mail special election for this. So depending on when this comes about, potentially for you all, this information could be very helpful. As I mentioned, the Rivoli Theater was one of the projects that we utilized this program for. This is just a little testimonial here from the owner and her daughter at the time. So again, this was a great project that we were able to help out a local, longstanding community member in our town. If you have any additional information that you need, Jonathan is the person to call. I got his contact information there for you, and I know you guys have some of this already. I kind of buzzed through that pretty quick, but like I said, this was very informational from that standpoint. So if you have any other further questions regarding the city of Seward, I'd be open to those now.
So as a city council member, what was the advantage
in your mind to creating the your LBA 40 plan? What was your advantage to be able to have that plan as opposed to just doing stuff at the city level?
Good question. This has been a long-standing, a lot longer than I've been in my city council role. So I've been with the city council for about 3 years now. I learned something new at every LB 840 committee meeting. So it's been fun to learn. I would have to say, as I mentioned, it just provides another opportunity for gap financing for projects to continue to be effective in our community. There are a number of projects that we have been able to have completed in the city of Seward that many of them say we would not have been able to, it would not have been able to happen at all without that gap financing. So I guess from that standpoint, it's just been an extra incentive for continued growth in our community.
You mentioned gap financing.
Mhm.
What percentage of the funds that you collect, you think go to like grants, and which ones go to mainly loans? So you usually get people wanting the loan part, or are they open to the grant part? Or obviously open to a grant part, but in the loan part, willing to pay back, in the fund.
Yes, very, very good question. I'm not sure I can really give you a good percentage, but most of what we do are loans. We don't do the forgiveness loans very, very often. If it's a smaller amount maybe or something like that, somebody that's really needing that. But most of the time, everyone's has come to us requesting a loan. They understand that what they're coming there for. These are tax dollars, so we don't utilize them very often, to be honest with you. Most of them are the loans.
Questions, Megan? Thank you, Megan, for taking time, and me as well.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you very much for letting us
Yes,
speak.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
But since there will be 40, it can be coupled with some of these, whether it's grants or stopgap financing loans, incentive programs, things like that. They mentioned some stuff to try to incentivize the childcare for infant. Utilize, I don't know what that would be, but I know there's lots of programs in this, and the plan that we put together here is very broad and allows a lot of opportunity for that in different things as it goes.
I just want another comment too that I think we need to look at is that some of the argument against LB 40 is, look at all of our economic development happening right now. Why do we need this? We don't need this right now. Look how good we're doing. Well, we're doing so good right now because of our leadership that we have. We have great leadership. We have people in positions that are doing their job and doing a great job. They're not always gonna be there. We need to have a plan in place to keep us moving forward. And if we have a plan that we can follow and continue to follow, regardless of our leadership positions, I think that's always gonna be a benefit to the city of York. So I think that's why it's important to get this into place finally. And so we can be competitive with other communities.
I think we've got.
Yeah, there's some other people that would like to address the council. You can come to the microphone. Please state if you do want to address, please state your name and address for the record, and we'll give you a couple minutes.
Jim Ulrich, 1313 Road Inn, York, Nebraska. It's been my pleasure for 8.5+ years to serve as the CEO of York General Healthcare Services in town. And I've got to tell you that there's a huge sense of deja vu from Nate Schneider. I see he's off. I was hoping he stayed back on. He was, for the second half of the 16 years I was there, he was the city administrator. So I went through, and I could provide much more detail, which I won't, on the journey to get that approved. And also some of the, I was the MEDC, or the McCook Economic Development Corp. President of the board on the year that it was first passed. And believe it or not, I was also the president of the board the second time around when it got renewed. That gives you an idea. I've been through that before. So you always like to have a successor, you know, to where you've been before. And my CFO from McCook became the president out of McCook after I left. And he is following in footsteps on the McCook Economic Development Corp. So serving in that role here also in York has risen on my radar, as well as, like Tony says, a definite need and some vital improvements that it provided McCook over the years. So I did a little homework for you. And I can illustrate a lot what Nate did, and maybe with some additional color to it. Very briefly here from my past CFO and now president out of McCook, Troy Limits. And so I'm gonna read what he told me, what it was used for, okay, recently. And one of the things that Nate mentioned was the Keystone Hotel. That was pretty early on, and that, so I got some additional ones later. So McCook, just like we had done, it took a long time out of McCook, I believe, where we added a second business park. And we finished up the first business park and that added the second one because the first one was full. But as Nate said, have made many gap loans for small businesses, and many of those succession of longstanding hallmark businesses in town. If anybody's ever heard of Sanders Bakery, if they've been out there in McCook, that was one of them that benefited from some great facade improvements. So they have went, and Nate touched on that too, of $250,000 to the MEDC to help finance our first, this is from Troy's perspective, our first major housing development in 40 years out there. I can say from being here, it is easier for us to build houses, but it's still hard. But they have to get contractors that are traveling long ways away to come out to McCook. We also use it as matching funds for rural workforce housing funds from the state. We have $2 or $3 million rotating now. A big use was for a townhome project last year that he had said. So I can tell you, living that it made a huge difference. The gap financing on a lot of different projects may sound like something that, okay, that's easier to do and everything. But most of those projects I remember approving because Troy and myself also had a part of standing up that community committee that he talked about for approval. And they wouldn't have happened without it. That was the glue that put them together in those cases. So I just wanted to give a little extra testimony. I did not know that Nate was going to be on. So a little deja vu there. I'll have to give him an email or something. That's what I know. So
Thank you, Jim.
My name is Kevin Bolstier, I live at 7 Railroad Road, York. Two things. One, President of Henderson State Bank, we started a location in McCook. I didn't know he was going to be speaking tonight as well. But I'm going to give some testimony for some experiences that we've had. We've been out there for about 1.5 years now. That is a public process. I think what I say is publicly known already. There was a daycare that was owned by a lady that had been very successful, had grown. There's a huge need. They were taking care of infants. Just as he testified to you, she was ready to give it up. I'm sure you get tired of that business and ready to move that on. There was a young lady working for them that really didn't have the ability to do that without. They came in with this mezzanine or this interim debt, made the transaction happen. It's been probably close to 1 year now. She's been on time payments, is doing a great job, and has expanded the operation in that time has retained staff and is developing a second location as well. So that's one example. We did have another customer as well. I don't remember the details on that. We used the mezzanine financing of that subordinate debt situation was very, very beneficial for them as well. So they've done it with loans, not grants, and the ones that we've been involved with. So I would just say kudos to McCook for what they put together. Second thing I would mention is that I've been involved in the economic development group for a number of years. The pull factor, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with what that is. We are so fortunate in the community of York to have a pull factor that's one of the highest in the state. And as that continues to accumulate to our benefit as a community, that helps finance some things. If this money is used for this program, I think that pull factor is something that we can continue to rely on to be a steady source of income for us. And probably as prices increase, that's a percentage, those dollars will continue to improve. I've seen the numbers that are published, those dollars have continued to be we've been very fortunate to be where we are along Interstate 80 and to have the retail development that we have. So I think that's a great opportunity for us. There are a lot of communities, as you've seen, and as you know, there are other examples that have used LB 840 for a long time. Guys, it's time. We need to get it done. We probably missed some opportunities, honestly, by not having it before, but it's time to get it done now. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, Lisa Hurley, York County Development Corporation, 601 North Lincoln Avenue. I'm not gonna talk real long because I think Steve had mentioned most of it, but my board of directors did approve being the administrator of the city proceeds forward and the community passes it. That happened last year before it went to the ordinance committee. The plan was reviewed at that point as well and approved by my board. So the basic concepts, the dates and stuff, like Stephen had mentioned, would need to be approved. The last state change to LB 840 was in 2023. That would be the last time the community development law was changed on that. And Kelly tonight brought an updated LB 840 guide implementation that's dated in 2025. But we went off of state law when we put this plan together in 2004. So, but I would like to go through that and make sure, just as a double check, but we should be pretty close. Do you guys have any questions for me? It's another tool. We're utilizing every other tool here that we can. I will say I've been out in DC the last couple, I've been out there with my local hat and my national hat for the National Rural Economic Developers Association. We've been with USDA, EPA, NATO, NACO, probably 20 different organizations. And what we were being told is really, we're gonna have to take care of ourselves. The federal and the state money is just gonna be more and more competitive. And what we cannot do right now with the current tools that the city can do is like relocation for additional talent coming in. That is something an LB 840 plan can do. The North Platte has done that very successfully, where a business like their hospital has put up some money and applied for a grant, and they've been able to move in new nurses or new talent into the community to fill those critical roles. Another thing, there was quite a bit of discussion from the speakers on the loans and the grants. We cannot do a direct loan to business, and as much as I've tried over the last 12 years, I have not been able to get YCDC a grant for us to be able to do that. I did get a donation once. I did 10,000 here and 5,000 there, but I can't consistently do it. We did have a small business that let a portion of their line go because she needed $3,500 to fix a machine. And at that point, I had nothing that we could help with. So that's stuff that LBA 40 can help with. Not just the large industrial reprogram, which it helps with, but our price on the industrial land is very competitive. So we're doing some great stuff, but my firm belief is anything the state allows us to do, we should have in the toolbox. And I've been saying that for a long time. So thank you.
Does anybody have any other questions or comments?
I guess my biggest question was, now seeing the numbers up there, and I don't know how accurate that graph is, but it looks like McCook's like up there towards the 400,000. Why are we setting the bar so high at $1 million? And what happens if we can't make that $1 million? I mean, projections look good, but say we come in at $860,000, where's the rest of that money come from then? Or what, that's the part that has me nervous,
Yeah.
like.
No, and that's kind of what I wanted to have a conversation about the dollar amount. Really, it'd be as a percentage of the sales tax. So if sales tax takes a big dip, it'd be less, it'd be more. So that was just a figure I was using then to calculate into what the percentage would be. So if theoretically, hopefully we go into a discussion as a community, or see a sales tax drop, it wouldn't be set at $1 million. There's ways you could structure it so you could set a dollar amount that some of you have done that, say, we will put in $500,000 a year, whatever, 400,000 a year regardless. But I felt more comfortable that if we're going through a recession, then the LBA 40 would also drop in funding as a percentage, just like anything. But it also, because that also incentivizes, if the program is working and it's growing the community, then that fund needs to grow as well with it as we'll continue to develop more projects. So that's why I'd like to have it as a percentage of the sales tax to really kind of incentivize what the program should be doing.
Stephen, I guess the one thing is, the start of this conversation kind of came when we found out that we were gonna get some increased MPPD lease payments. That's gone on now for a very short period of time. We're using the sales tax with our max out, and there's a lot of people there. I guess you're talking about it being a percentage of that, but really what you're talking about making up the difference is that.
Correct, yes.
And and that's the real funding source, which is not a very proven funding source for a short period of time, especially at that level. And also there's, the state and federal and a lot of people looking really hard at those kind of dollars of whether or not that's sustainable or not. I guess that's just one of my questions. That's what kind of started this conversation back up.
Yeah, because that's really where, seeing that additional funding, that we're pulling in from the leasehold revenue, and soon to be some additional occupancy taxes and sales taxes where we get from the hotels, we'll be adding to the tax rolls as those are completed out there. So that funding would supplement. So if we dedicate a percentage of the sales tax to an LBA 40 plan, those other funding sources would make up in the budget what would be taken out. So it'd be a way to, that's why I said it's a way I think we could put a plan in, whether it's done at the $1 million level or something less.
When Seward did theirs, civil side, they're talking about 150,000. In that estimate, and we're talking about $1 million.
Yeah. That's why I called this conversation before, trying to figure out what is that number?
Right, I just bring it up.
Correct.
I think just bringing up the amounts and the stuff is what you guys have to discuss and talk about. I'm just trying to.
Looking at some of those, if we start to utilize it, part of it.
There's no new sales tax here. So if we give 20% of it, if it's not made up, then something's got to give.
And I think a lot of depends on some early communities when they were adopting this, they were doing it very focused on a certain type of project or certain type of industry instead of being very broad that can be used for all businesses, all opportunities out there, or as many as they're allowed to, anyways, by state statute. They were going for one, so they were keeping it small because it was focused on one specific project, and that's where you saw Seward went from 50 to 150,000. They're adding because they see the value and putting money towards that. You saw a lot of, at least on that graph that they had, is in the 400-some thousand range for communities that are similar or smaller than our size. So where we end up, we've been very blessed. We've seen what Happison does for LD 357 in our community for a lot of our parks and infrastructure projects. I think this will just be able to continue to grow and, add to that base and continue to add more. And like I said, I'm open before we quit, because the next step, as I understand it, Charlie, is we'd have to actually have a public hearing on a final plan that we've decided before we were actually voting on it as part of the department. So that's kind of wanting to get the council's thoughts on what is that dollar amount we want to put in there, and then we can kind of work it backwards based on what our projected sales tax is to figure that out. Obviously, basic math, if we go for, 750,000, we'll be looking at 15% of the sales tax, or the 1.5 sales tax. If we go, $500,000, it'd be 10%. So it's kind of, this is using our 24, 25, I think, projected or budget year.
I heard when Nate was talking, he said that, the committee that operates it,
Yes.
there's finance through that program. Did he say a third of the money goes to administrative?
And they said.
Is that, so like, McCook's way up here, Seward's down here, what's Seward doing if they're only doing 150 and McCook's doing, or?
So it really depends on, like, each community is so different and how they structure it, how much they utilize it to fund they might pay for all their economic development membership or benefits through that. So looking at what I put in here, again, this is just a proposal, we're about 50,000, working backwards on $1 million to make it a 5%, but. If we say, we think of 50,000 to fund it to have somebody manage all these projects or applications and all that stuff. We could work that backwards on a percentage basis too of what that would need to look like, but.
I just didn't know if there was a common percentage.
Okay, I just want to add that I sent Jonathan a text, but I haven't heard back. Seward did update and go back out to the vote in last year, and that was the presentation beforehand. And I believe they increased their amount, but I don't want to tell you the wrong amount. It ranges all over the place. Holdridge is at 600,000 a year. It's been a couple of years since I've gathered the data from the different communities. Does the state have that, Kelly?
They have some of it, yeah.
Do you know some of it off the top of your head where communities are?
Most of them are doing 0.5% of, I can't tell you the
Dollar.
exact dollar amount. You'd have to go through and look at the revenues from Department of Revenue, but most of them are at least at 0.5% of the sales tax. And there's a lot of towns that are, Nelson, Nebraska, 600 people, they're less than 600 actually, I think now. They just passed it. They wanted to do childcare. And so they passed it at a percentage. So, I'd say whatever percentage you feel comfortable.
If you would like us to update kind of where different communities are percentage or dollar wise, that's something I can send an email out on Monday and start requesting. It doesn't take long to get responses.
Yeah, because.
I just wanted to offer that.
Yeah, if we were doing the same half set that other communities are doing at that, we'd be over 1.6 million doing that to we're funding our only 357 with each year. So, we'd be in a similar thing if we were doing that. So this would be substantially less on a percentage basis compared to what other communities are doing. We've just been very blessed, and I think we've been a great, very forward-thinking community, and this would just be a way to continue to add to that, to grow our community.
I'm gonna shut the conversation down, but there's some things to think about, so we can put it back on for discussion again before it's a public hearing, if you want to get some of that information and let everybody have a chance to think, and we can put it back on the agenda again if you wish to further discuss this and decide if you have some parameters or where the council wants to go with it.
Real quick too, and then you think that there might be just some minor tweaks from that 2025?
Very few, because the last change in LBA 40 was in 2023, so you probably got.
I think
You're probably as close as you can get.
yes, I do think because we went by the state law. We looked at the implementation guide, but we compared it to the state law. And several of us did that, so I think we're pretty close. I personally want to go over that implementation guide again, just because
I hate to make it more restrictive than it needs to be.
And so
The only
that,
thing
the
to
other-
add would be the date, the timeline on that, because obviously to vote, we need enough time to, you'd have to market it to community, things like that. And so with our budget year, as we see here coming out, starting that process, you know, the part of the conversations, I don't know the feasibility of starting something in the mid of a budget year versus you wait till the next budget year. You know, if we're going through this process with a vote in November, December timeframe, you know, something like that, just, you know, we're already partway through a budget year, so then you do something where it implements the following budget year, or can you start something partway through? I don't know if that's, you know, because it's kind of hard to budget for something if the voters haven't said, yes, they want to do this. So, but if we know this is the plan we're working on, we could easily allocate what we would anticipate that amount to be and set that aside. For whatever, I would think there might be a way to work with Charlie on doing that. If we think it's there, and then if voters decide not to do this plan, then we have that money to use for other capital items or something like that. Because at the end of the day, you know, if voters are turning it down, it's not saying that they're gonna have a decrease in their sales tax. It's just, we just want the city to keep managing the sales tax instead of using it for economic development.
so my understanding is you have to develop the plan, then the council has to vote to put it on the ballot.
Yes.
So that'll
With that
happen.
public hearing and then they.
And
from that.
then a vote, so the council will have to decide to put this on the ballot, so, and then it would have to be voted on, but it first has to get through this body to put it on the ballot, so. Any other comments for tonight? We'll try and get you the exact information too of what the council's role is, on this as we go forward. So, thank you everyone for your discussion on this, we will continue this discussion. Our last agenda item is the third reading of ordinance number 2389, the annexation of attractive ground in the part of the southeast quarter of 3211-2. This is our final and third reading to annex the ground into the city that the new housing development is on. I don't think it's a public hearing. I don't think that it's,
Take an action.
There you do.
So.
yeah, but we do need to take an action this time.
Move for approval.
Second.
The motion is seconded. Any further discussion? Amanda?
Banish.
Yes.
Piper.
Yes.
McGregor.
Yes.
North.
Yes.
Shepherd. Yes. Postier.
Yes.
That brings us to the end of our agenda. We are adjourned. Thank you all.